Pulling to the spot like Phil Collins sang it. Fresh new fade with the mustache banging. I know you want to know where the fuck I'm from.
Check it out real quick. Episode 10. We got Ben here. You're advocating for prison reform right now, right?
Yes, sir. That's one of the things I do.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you're here, man. And I want to start with like your downside of life. Like, did you ever have to go to the system as a youth?
Yeah, when I was 16, I was in San King County Juvenile Hall, and then at 18 years old, I was sentenced to 10 years in prison with 2 strikes.
At 18, you went in there?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. And how much time? Oh, so you went straight from juvenile hall to prison?
No, I had a grand theft auto case and an assault case for my juvenile, and then at 18 years old, I caught an armed robbery.
Oh, okay.
Yes, sir.
And then how much time did you get from there?
From there, for the armed robbery, I was sentenced to 10 years with 2 strikes. I served 8.5 years out of that.
Okay. And you haven't been back since then?
No, sir.
Okay. The prison experience, is there anything you want to like share with somebody as far as your experience of, something personal that mentally you went through?
Yeah, I when I got my time, one thing that I knew for sure was that I didn't want it to be a waste of time.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I did everything I can to maximize that 10-year sentence to the best of my ability, as far as exercising, reading books, taking college classes, anything I can to prepare myself to get out and hit the ground running. You know what I mean? And one thing that I'm always eternally grateful for is that I was always surrounded by solid individuals, good homies that always encouraged me to better myself and educate myself and take a high regard for my physical and mental well-being. And they always encouraged me to strive for higher education. And so that was definitely a positive push that helped me do the time the best I can to maximize the opportunities when I come home.
Man, I like that, man. You says you strategize of how you're going to make this time valuable and beneficial to you. And you looked on the bright side of things. Man, okay, that's good, because a lot of people just go in there and say, man, like, screw it, I'm stuck right now, And
well, it's a double-edged sword, right? Because I went in good standings, and I paroled in good standings, right? And when I say that's a double-edged sword, is that you always want to strive to better yourself and be prepared for that opportunity to hit the ground running when you come home. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, you also have to be prepared for anything that may happen. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And whenever you're living in that lifestyle, whether out here in the streets or behind the walls, you always have to be prepared to chalk up and lose everything. Mm-hmm. To sacrifice all that you hope for, all that you strive for, and all that you hope for, if the day doesn't go the way you want it to.
Stay packed up, ready to go.
Most definitely. Yeah.
All right, let's go back a little bit to when you were 18 and you were in the county jail fighting this case. What was your thoughts? Did you think you were looking at this much time, or you thought it was going to be a slap on the wrist, a couple months in the county or something?
I expected it to be a couple years, like 3 or 4 years. But what really did me in was the gang enhancements. The gang enhancements really did me in. And plus, me and my co-defendant, we were known by gang tasking detectives that were working with the prosecutors at the time. So they basically were told to throw the book at us.
Oh.
Yeah. So we got more than we typically would have gotten. But one thing that was really messed up about what was happening at the time in San King County is that I was 18 years old when I caught my case, and I was with the pods with a bunch of fellas that were 18, 19, 20 years old, and this is our first adult case, right? Mm-hmm. And one thing they were doing was that they were pressuring everyone to take 2-strike deals for their first offense. And so how they would do this, in my case at least, is they would tell me, hey, here's 13 years with 2 strikes. And I retained a lawyer, and brought it down to 10 years with 2 strikes, the deal that they're offering me. And they basically said they're not going to go any lower. And if I want to go to trial, I can do that, but I'll probably get 18, 20 years. But the deal is 2 strikes. They were dead set on that. I told them I'll take more time with less strike. I'll go back to 13 years for 1 strike. But they said no. They were dead set on that. So that's an unfortunate practice that they had at the time, because if you think about it, why would they want young individuals to take 2 strikes for their first deal, for their first offense? It's because they're setting them up to give them a 3rd strike for anything they want.
Yeah, that was definitely a like a plan.
Most definitely.
So would you end up well, before we get there, like what more of your thoughts, like did you get support and stuff like that? Did your family come in and retain a lawyer for you and stuff like?
Yeah, my family, they dropped 5,000. They dropped 5 racks on my attorney, and he brought the deal down from 13 years to 10 years. Could more have been done, possibly, but that's that's the best that he was apparently able to negotiate for me.
Damn. So just 3 years off the sentence.
Yeah.
And did you take 2 strikes?
Yeah, I took 10 years, 2 strikes, and gang registration.
Damn.
Because it was a gang enhancement attached to that.
So what was what was the case exactly? Like, what was it? Just like, would you say?
It was second-degree armed robbery, use of a firearm, and street terrorism, which is the gang enhancement.
Okay. All right. So that yeah, I guess that sounds. I'm sure the details sound a little more crucial than that, right?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, a friend of mine, a couple years prior, he had got arrested for shooting at police officers, and so they had, I imagine they had that bias against us for that.
He was your co-partner?
No, he was the brother of my co-defendant.
Oh, okay. So it's yeah, okay.
So after that incident, after that shooting, every time they would see us driving down the street, they would pull us over every day. Every day they would pull us over, pull us all out, search us, take pictures, strip the car down.
Yeah.
Every day.
I get what you're saying. So they kind of had it out for you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just because of who you're around and stuff.
Most definitely.
So would you say without the gang enhancement, you probably would have got like a year in county? Like, well, without the gang allegations, period.
Without the gang allegations, the gang charge itself, I believe it was 4 years.
Or even the people you surrounded yourself with. You think that helped out helped the DA put more pressure on you?
Well, yeah, they're always going to paint a negative image of us. They're always going to portray us as the boogeyman, based on how we grow up and how we associate ourselves with each other from our communities, right? Whether it's merited or not, and that's something that I'm still battling to this day with youth that are facing cases, right? So one thing that I do is I do a participatory defense, and what that means is that when these youth, they go to juvenile court, right, and even adults, but because the youth spans from juvenile up to about 25 years, 24 years old, and so essentially what I do is I go with them to court, and I assist with their defense in terms of like a character reference. Say, hey, this individual is a good-hearted person. We're working with him. We're getting him back into school. We're getting him a job. He's back in the house. He's listening to his parents. So we basically assist with knocking down that boogeyman portrayal that these kids are super predators.
The possibilities
they need to get maxed out, and there's no rehabilitation for them, and there's no way that they could get a slap on the wrist and be and bounce back from that, which is furthest from the truth. Most people, when they offer the opportunity for a second chance, they'll run with it, right?
Yeah.
Given the proper guidance and assistance.
You basically knock out the way they weaponize their assumption of the possibility this guy's going to be a terrorist to the streets and stuff.
Yeah,
you know what I mean,
most definitely. Because go ahead.
Yeah, that sounds like kind of remind me of myself a little bit. Like you feel like you ain't letting go of, like, the way they stereotype, and you want to help change that narrative.
Yeah, most definitely. We definitely want to change the narrative with how the courts see and treat us, but also when it comes to criminal justice reform, right? And not only that, but community development, because they go hand in hand, right?
Right.
We have to rebrand we have to rebrand the public perception of the formerly incarcerated community, right? Because a lot of people, they look at us and they stereotype us and they think, oh, hardcore gang member, bipper, smash and grab shoplifter, because that's what's in the social media right now, right? And that's what they're running with the narrative to piss off the public, to have them support tough on crime laws again, right?
Right.
And
Taxpayers and stuff, right?
Exactly. And then but what they don't see, what they don't put on social media, and what is more accurately reflective out here is that a lot of us come home from prison. We already have college degrees, or we're getting college degrees. We're getting into trade unions. We're making six-figure salaries as plumbers, iron workers, electricians, entrepreneurs, because people move on from the trades and they start their own business, or they start their own entrepreneurial ventures, to where they start their own business. And then so there's a ton of guys out here that have been to prison, that have records, that are labeled as gang members, but they're college graduates. They have six-figure careers. They're homeowners. They're family men. They give back to the community, volunteer with nonprofit organizations to help coach and mentor youth that are struggling in these adverse situations. So what's really important moving forward is highlighting the positives of our community, and not just the negatives. Right. Because when we only highlight the negative, you get a negative response. So when you only highlight the bipping, the smash and grabbing, and the sensational crime reporting, right, as far as the armed robberies and the shootings, right, when you only focus on that as a negative, the only response people feel is a negative. So they want to push mass incarceration again. They want to lock everyone up again, right? As far as max them out, give people unfair sentences, and essentially go with the throw them in the dungeon approach, right? But when you see the positives in the community, and then the people struggling in these communities, then that inspires you to have a positive reaction and a positive response, which is to double down on reentry, on victim support, on rehab, on these developmental and mentor programs and organizations that help people just get on their feet and move on with their life. Because a lot of times people just need some guidance and assistance, because they're stuck in a messed up cycle. And that's not to say that we should be free and clear of self-responsibility or self-accountability, because I'm a very strong proponent of that. We have to be responsible for our own culture, for our own ways of thinking, and our own actions, right? But at the same time, people deserve a second chance. Yeah. And people deserve a little help.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason for that learned behavior, and it's been going on for years before us, before our parents, before our grandparents, and nothing's changed, and it's like, here it is, just a cycle, and we're just part of that cycle, going in and out, in and out, in and out. And I get what you're saying, man. It makes a lot of sense. It's like you're basically not letting go of the fact that, hey, we want the American dream too. We were misguided, misled growing up. We didn't have the resources or the head start, because I wasn't ever in no sports and stuff like that as a kid. My mom couldn't afford none of that. So, man, that's important that you're doing that, man. It's definitely going to help out the community and keep pushing. And like, I always think like that. I just don't know the right avenues to go. And I'm glad we got in contact and stuff, because I see what you're doing, man.
Yeah. Thank you. And a lot of it is just removing barriers to success and opportunity with people that are ready and willing to move on with their life, right? And the reason why I bring that up is because the last major legislation that we passed was SB 731, which is a groundbreaking expungement law, the strongest expungement law in the country. And what that did is that it expanded expungement to now include felony prison cases. And so if you serve time in prison, and if you have a felony record, excluding 290 sex offenses, but everything else, you qualify for expungement 2 years after discharging probation and parole without any new or pending charges.
That's a law that's going through now, or
That's passed.
it's passed?
It's passed.
Okay,
That went into effect last year. Me and a handful of other individuals
The-
from Stockton were the first individuals to get our records expunged under that law.
Okay, every felony except for what?
290 sex offenses.
But other than that, everything's fine.
Yes, sir.
Damn, that's great, man.
Yeah, and but a caveat to mention with that, right, is that expungement isn't as strong and as wide sweeping as most people believe, right? And what I mean by that is that
Well, it still pops up in the criminal thing,
it still pops up.
but your employer can't bring it up.
Yes, exactly. Because that's
When-
ultimately for right now. For now, the purpose of expungement is to hide your record from landlords, employers, and people that could provide you with resources.
Landlords, because that's hell important, man, because when you're trying to rent a place and you're trying to get your life together, and it's like, what does my charge from 10 years ago have to do with renting this place? Why you want to, because they could sit there and find out that you did this or did that, and like, I don't want that person living in this neighborhood.
Yeah, I deal with this all the time when people come home from jail or they come home from prison and they just want to get back on their feet. They want to get a decent job. They want to get a decent place to live in a decent community. Yeah. And everywhere they go, their record is being pulled up and used against them. And they come to me and other organizations and they ask, "Hey man, I'm just trying to get a job. Where do they hire felons at?" Mm-hmm. And it's unfortunate that people that are ready and willing to move on with their life and turn a positive chapter in their life, that they have to face these undue barriers that hold them back. Because when people want to do better and they want to be better, the last thing we should do is make it harder for them by denying them positive opportunities. That's the only time our records are ever really brought up, when we're trying to do something positive, when we're trying to get a license, when we're trying to get a job, when we're trying to get a decent place to live. And then we put in our application, background check, oh, you got a felony, fuck you.
Bring it. Your past came back to haunt you, man. So when did you start all this? Did you say you went to college for a while?
I took college classes in prison. When I was in Arizona, I started my college classes, and from there I was transferred to Susanville, and I didn't continue my college classes there. But when I paroled from prison, when I paroled from Susanville in 2015, I enrolled in San Joaquin Delta College, and I completed my associate's degree there.
So when you were sitting in there, you were probably sitting there thinking like, this ain't right, this ain't fair. So you always had this, you felt like you had to get back at this, and this is what you're doing now?
Yeah, most definitely. Because really, it wasn't so much that I feel that it wasn't right or that it wasn't fair, even though that's also true. Mostly what it is that
excessive.
I just want to see my people win for a change.
Right.
You know what I mean? As far as I grew up with the fellas on the block. I grew up with the fellas behind the walls, and
well, the reason why I ask,
go ahead.
I'm sorry. The reason why I ask, man, is because to do what you're doing and continue what you're doing, I watched a couple of your videos and I seen how you're going up there and you're speaking. That ambition has to come from somewhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It has to be something. You're not letting something go. Like you see something that's not right and you're not letting it go. You know
well, that's what it is. Is that we want what's best for our people, for our communities, and we want to see them succeed, right? And what I mean by that is that say for example, anyone, right? When I ask how so and so is doing a year from now, I don't want to hear that this person is living check to check because he can't get a decent job. I don't want to hear he's stuck in the hood because these HOAs won't let him move into a better neighborhood and a better school district for his kids. I don't want to hear that he's back in county fighting a hot one, or that he got washed, or that he got shot up. I want to ask about my people and hear that they got that better paying job, they got into that good paying career, that they bought that house, that they started that business, that they're taking care of their family, they got their record expunged, and that they got their dignity and equality back. Because at the end of the day, that's ultimately what we're striving for. We're striving for the better, because that's what I'm about. Yeah. I'm about the betterment and advancement of my people, physically, mentally, socioeconomically, and politically. And right now, the avenue I'm most active in right now is law and politics, because politics is essentially how you create law, and law dictates how the system interacts with our community, whether it be positive or negative.
So what's going on? Is there anything else you're speaking on besides the like that law change? Like, I think I heard something about prison reform, right?
Yes, yes. We me and a handful of individuals, we had went down to Sacramento last week for it was the state assembly subcommittee hearing for the CDCR $14.6 billion annual budget. And so we were advocating for the closure of 5 more prisons on top of the 2 prisons that they had already closed.
How does that help for them to close the prisons?
It helps because it frees up state funding for community programs and community investments.
Right on.
So what we believe in, right, is that instead of dumping tens of billions of dollars into caging our communities, let's take some of that money and invest in developing our communities and addressing the root causes of crime, right? Which is the lack of jobs, the lack of resources, the mental health, everything that goes into developing a community. Because when you look at a community that's thriving and a community that's struggling, right? For example, I'm from Stockton, so I'll say Brookside. Brookside is a high-end community, right? And let's say Filbert Arms, right, is a struggling apartment complex, right? The system we have right now is crime response, not crime prevention. Law enforcement show up after the fact, right? They don't. There's nothing done to prevent crime, only to respond to crime. So my point is that Brookside doesn't have less crime than Filbert Arms because there's more cops in Brookside. They don't need that many cops, if any, over there, because it's a developed community. They have they own their homes there. They have good paying careers. They have good jobs. They have resources.
They have a good foundation.
They have a solid foundation.
So closing those 5 prisons down, if they would do that, how much money does that save?
$1 billion a year.
Oh, that could be used to the community.
Yes, sir.
All right.
So that's ultimately what it's about. It's about reallocating state funding away from just incarceration and put some of that into community development.
Okay. Man, that makes a lot of sense. Because how old are you?
Right now, I'm 36.
Okay. I'm 45, but like back in the neighborhood, like when I was a kid in the 80s, like we could have used a lot of resources. I hung out with a lot of fatherless kids. So we didn't have like if that park in our neighborhood had people pulling us off the street like, hey, what are you doing? I see you guys walking here every day. What are you doing? You guys want to learn how to play some ball? You want to learn how to play baseball? Like we got this free program going on, and so all you got to do is have your mom and dad come sign this, and give us the okay to coach you. Man, we would have been like, hell yeah, There was a weightlifting room there in the area somewhere. I would have been in there every day, and that just that little moment right there keeps us a little balanced,
Most definitely. I was just talking with the mother the other day, and I'm working with a son of hers that's struggling. He's on probation right now, right? And I had a little 45-minute conversation with him, picked his brain, got to know him, chopped it up with him, and I came back to his mom and told him, get him into boxing to help him get a job. It'll change his life.
You have to occupy them because kids' brains are developing at this young age, and if they don't have no direction, no guidance, they're just gonna find their own way. You know what I mean? They're sitting there just running like, what do we do? What do we do? That's why they have so much energy. They're jumping into things. They're impulsively getting into cars they shouldn't get into. They're impulsively hanging out with dudes they shouldn't be hanging out with. They're just like they're training themselves with no direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah, most definitely. A lot of times they just need some solid guidance,
right?
And that's also the self accountability that I believe in, right? As far as we want to hold the systems accountable, right? As far as law enforcement, the courts, the prison system, the education system, right? We want to hold the systems accountable, but at the same time, we also need to hold ourselves accountable, right? And be mindful of the culture that we promote, right? And what we steal in our youth, right? And what I mean by that is that a beautiful thing that I took away from prison, right, is that when I was in prison, I was always encouraged to have a strong positive mindset, to conduct and present myself respectably and professionally, to work on bettering myself, to work on educating myself, right? And that was pushed very heavily on me, right? What I think is, why do we have to go to prison to promote that amongst each other?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Why don't we take the positives of our culture in there and continue that out here and positively impact and influence our young brothers out here struggling in these communities?
Yeah, there's ways to do that. But at the same time, we're so backed up. Our history goes. I mean, my mom's been in prison. My grandma was in prison. All my uncles and aunts been in prison. I only have one aunt out of 9 kids that my grandma had that didn't go to prison. We're so backed up from all those years in the 60s, 70s, whatever. And it's like the learned behavior is still there, you know, and it's just, it's going to take where did that come from? Like, this learned behavior that most Mexicans and blacks are incarcerated, where'd that come from? You know what I mean? If it's still happening now, we can't all be accountable for that. Like, this has to be coming from somewhere. And this is just the community.
There's always a source, right? There's always a source to something, but then we also have the choice to, do we continue that,
right,
or do we stop it?
Yeah.
Do we do what's necessary to break these negative cycles and change our culture for the better,
Yeah.
to promote positivity instead of negativity, right? And what I mean by that is that all those positive things that I mentioned, that's essentially prison culture. You know what I mean? And what I mean by that is that going to prison isn't an excuse not to do better or to promote positivity out here, because that's how we all interact with each other behind the walls.
Yeah.
So to come out here and forget that,
you know, not too many people come back out with that attitude of what they learned there and came out with the positive of it. Majority of people that I've seen in my life always come out with the negative part of it, and they weaponize it for their own personal agendas. You know what I mean? And what you're doing is like, you're really being like, you're really speaking for the people and leading by example.
Most definitely, because that's all we can do, and that's how we were raised, right? To lead by example and pave the way, right? To create positive avenues for our people to follow us down should they choose that, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never take a negative stance, right, or speak negatively against my people struggling in the communities or behind the walls.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, I'll always honor and respect my roots, where I came from and who I am, right?
Yeah.
And also recognize that a lot of this positivity was instilled in me by the brothers behind the walls, right? And then so when I'm out here, I'll never do what law enforcement wants us to do, right? Law enforcement wants to divide us and pit us against each other, right? What I'm doing is that I'm no one to judge anyone that is that's continuing to live an illegal lifestyle, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to promote positivity in my own lane. Right. And so I'm going to do what I can to pave the way and establish something solid, positive, and legal for it, and make it available and known that when you're ready to join me, or to
plant that seed,
or to plant that seed. Because one thing that I always like to say is that you don't have to turn your back on your brothers to strive for a better life.
No.
You don't have to turn your back on your people to strive for a better life. You can lead by example, you can pave the way, and you can reach back to them if and when they're ready to join you on that path.
Yeah.
But put in the work to establish something positive and trailblaze.
I like that, man, because I could never have a lack of empathy for people who are suffering that came out of the same place that we came from. And for example, there's a family member of a family member that just got out serving about 30 years, and he was supposed to get out, you know, of a life sentence. And I hear the family talk about him like, oh, he's doing this, he's doing that. As far as his behavior, what do you expect him to do? I mean, his mental health is so weak. You know, you got to have some kind of empathy for that and consideration. Like, man, like, he suffered and went through hell for so many years. Like, so I like what you say that you would never take a negative stance against our people, especially because that could be you today, and I mean that's them now, but it could be you tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Most definitely.
You know, so I seen it, man. I seen it happen over and over again. So I always, but I mean, you can only do so much though. You know what I mean? Like I said, plant that seed, but if you rub it in, some people might take it negative, like you're trying to preach to them and stuff. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's something that that's something that I'm very mindful of, right? I don't go around preaching to people. If people aren't ready to adopt a positive or legal lifestyle, it's not my position to judge them, right? And I'm not gonna go out of my way to shame them for that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm at the same time gonna leave the door open for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And then do what I gotta do to set the foundation for if and when they're ready, there's something established and ready for them.
Yeah. Be understandable to their to the resistance to it. You know, it's like I get it. Like, you know, it's gonna take some time for you to probably figure this out. You know what I mean? You're probably gonna have to go through some things, because obviously what you went through so far, you ain't really went through something yet, you know, because people think they got problems until real problems surface. You know what I mean? And then you're gonna be like, hey, you know what? I think I need to call this guy. You know what I mean? For his resources. I'm pretty sure you already had that happen to you, right?
Oh no, yeah, most definitely, and it's really touching. It's really touching, right? And it's really inspiring, because I highlight what I do, right, on social media, on my Instagram, right?
Yeah.
And I have brothers reach out to me all the time, right? Whether it be dudes I was personally locked up with, people that I've never met, people that just follow my page and then know know my background, where I came from and where I'm at now and what I'm promoting, what I'm pushing, and they tell me how much they appreciate what I do, how much they respect what I do, and how inspiring it is. You know what I mean? And that's ultimately what I do this for, right? Because a week ago, right, I took a handful of homies to the state capitol for policy advocacy, right? Yeah. And I posted it, right? I posted it on my social media. You know, it was the homie Tubbs, Tiger Den from Stockton, BFD, Rico Too Smooth, and a couple other fellas, right?
Yeah, I remember you sent me the invite.
Yeah.
I would have went, man, if I wasn't on this.
Oh, it's all good, because you know what I mean. At the end of the day, it's all about opening doors. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I took the brothers with me, and I put it on social media, and I had someone message me from a burner account, and they basically said, "Do you?" I said, they told me, I know you're smart enough to know that these judges and senators aren't gonna take you seriously when you surround yourself with gang members, right? And I sat on that for a second, right, and thought about it. Man, you know what? I don't care, because my goal isn't to get politicians or judges to take me seriously. That was a hard
decision right there, because it is a kind of a look. Like, you kind of look.
It's a look.
But it's a good decision, though. I agree with your decision, because like you said in the beginning of this interview, that you're trying to lead by example. So how are you going to lead by example if you're not opening doors for these people?
For sure.
If you close it and turn your back on them and act like you're better than them, what does that make you?
Exactly. You know what I mean? Because the goal isn't to get these politicians and these elected officials to respect me or to take me seriously.
Right.
The goal is for me to inspire my people watching me to take themselves seriously. Right. To know that regardless of where they come from, where they or what they've been through, that they too are worthy and deserving of stepping in a professional space like this, putting on a suit and tie and brushing shoulders with senators and talking about.
That's what I'm talking about right there, man. That's what I'm talking about. That's real shit. It took a lot of balls to do that, man. Because to walk in there with that kind of representation, and it's like, you know, people are gonna judge you. And you still held your head high and still went through with that. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. And those individuals that you took, I'm sure they got the chills to be a part of something like that. And that's going to direct them for the rest of, for the rest of their lives. Is they're going to look at things different now. You know?
Most definitely. I sat down and I had good conversations with them, with all of them, and at the other event too. And they solid individuals, good hearts, good head on their shoulders. You know what I mean? Like they already had that positive mindset in them. Yeah. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it helps to reinforce that. And I think what I like, that what I appreciate most about the positive feedback that I'm getting on social media from fellows all across the state, right? For the good, the positive work that I'm doing, the legal work that I'm doing, and all of that, is that the community work is that it shows people that you can still do solid, positive community work,
Right.
and be respected for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That they're other people are now able to see the positive feedback, the positive response that people are giving me for the positive work that I'm doing. Right? There's not that negative stigma of, oh man, he's over there doing square stuff, or how dude's a dork, or whatever the young-minded mentality or responses people would expect, right?
Just remember, real leaders make the unpopular decisions.
Most
You know what
definitely.
I'm
In terms of struggle and adversity, all you have to ask yourself is, where's your heart at?
Right.
What are you doing this for? You know what I'm saying? Are you doing this are you doing this for recognition of a certain of a certain class of people, right? Or are you doing this out of the goodness in the heart of your heart for the love of your people, because you want to bring them with you and not leave them behind?
Yeah, if you don't want better for your people, then what are you even doing? You know what I mean? Like, you're just
Exactly.
being selfish and thinking for yourself every day. I know we should always watch ourselves and our family and all that, but your family could fall victim to these things. So
Yeah.
it's important that, you know, you sit there and focus on that a little bit, you know?
And that's true, but because we also can't forget to build ourselves up, to pour into ourselves, right? Because you can't pour from an empty cup. And what I mean by that is that when I came home from prison, I always knew that I wanted to give back and assist my people struggling in the community in some form or fashion, right? But I also recognized that I wasn't ready for that because I didn't have the lived experience for that. What I mean by that is that I knew very well how to live, think, and function in prison, but I didn't know how to function and thrive in society as a law-abiding adult, right? Because I've been in prison since high school. And then so before I could even give anyone advice about how to succeed in life, I had to figure out for myself how to succeed in life, right? And so that's how come I started with the minimum wage jobs. I went to college, got my associate's degree, and God willing, my a good friend of mine, Jeremy from Hayward, he paroled from the feds. His wife and my wife were best friends, so that's how we connected. And he's the one that plugged me into the Iron Workers Union. And now I make 120. I make 120,000 a year from iron working alone. So
right.
that positive opportunity from a solid individual that blessed me with that changed not only my life but the life of my family as well. And I'll forever be grateful to him for that. Right.
That's right.
And then so now that fast forward, I went through that apprenticeship school and for the trades, and I became successful in that, and I got a good paying career. I bought a house. I got married. I'm taking care of my family. I'm doing everything I need to do. Now I'm better prepared to reach back and assist others down that same avenue, and also build new avenues for in areas that are still uncharted for me yet.
Right. So you think that well, let me ask you this first. Did you have a father growing up?
Yes, sir.
Is he still around?
Yes, sir.
Oh, that's good. That's good. So do you think your dad installed some of these morals in you?
Yeah, he most definitely did. I mean, I always gotta give credit. I was raised in a small house out east, in a 1-bedroom house out east with my grandma, my grandpa, my mom and dad, right? So I definitely had a family. And
Wait, hold on. I want to cut you short before
ahead.
this thought goes away. Continue doing what I'm saying. But do you think your dad already installed all the do's and don'ts before you made that mistake, but you chose to do what you did anyway?
I always had good morals. I always had good ethics. I was always a good-hearted person. I was always a good-hearted person.
That's my point, because I can see that in you, and although you didn't use it at that time, but it's not too late.
It's not.
See, you're shining now.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean?
Yes, sir. And yeah, so yeah, I was always instilled with good morals and good ethics from my father, and I'm very grateful to him for that.
Shout out your pops.
And you know what I mean? Most definitely, always. And but I was still misdirected, right? Through my own lapse of judgments, right? Yeah. But one thing, right, is that a lot of times what leads a lot of us astray when we're young, I think, is that we have a misconception of masculinity, what it means to be a man, a strong and respected man.
No,
You know what I
definitely.
mean? And so when a lot of us are growing up in middle school and high school, we get these ideas in our head as far as what it means to be strong, what it means to be respected, what it takes to be desired by the women and stuff like that, right? And we
A lot of
go
egotistic shit.
all of that, and it
Yeah.
compounds on each other, right? And so we guide ourselves down this negative direction because we have a misconception of what it truly means to be a man, right? And and now that we're older and we know now what it means to be a man, right? As far as to take care of your family, take care of your business, have strong moral ethics. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Everything
man.
that goes into being a man.
Yeah, a man plants the seed for the future generation to grow. You know what I
Most
mean?
definitely. So now that we have that awareness, I believe I have that responsibility to bless the younger generations with that understanding as well.
Right,
Because
right.
just like I was lacking it at their age, they're lacking it. Because the other day when I was in juvenile hall, not juvenile hall, in juvenile court in San Joaquin County to do help with participatory defense with the youth down there. I looked at the kids in the hallway waiting to see the judge, and they're over there they're over there looking guilty. There's kids that come to court with a ski mask on.
Oh shit.
You know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
so, and like I said, like I'm not gonna speak to I'm not here to speak negatively about
No,
them,
I mean it is
but
what it is, you know.
they need guidance and direction.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And now that we know better as grown men,
Yeah.
I believe we have to do right by not only ourselves but our families and our communities, and help guide the younger generation in a more positive way.
Yeah, and let's take advantage of the social media so we could reach a wider audience and share your like your knowledge on these things and your concerns and stuff. Let me ask you this: as far as prison goes, because obviously you took a lot of the discipline in there for the right, and used it for the right reasons.
Yes, sir.
Do you think that that helped you out a lot? Did you think you benefited off that?
Most definitely.
So that's
Most
good. Man. That's
definitely.
good, man. That's good. And because I mean, I'm sure a lot of people that ain't never coming home could hey man, I did something for that youngster right there. You know what I mean? I'm sure they could feel good if they ever see this, in the past.
Yeah,
That'll go a
most
long way.
definitely.
If somebody could see that they actually, if there's somebody there you talk to, and kept you up to par or whatever, your first year or two there, I'm sure they'd probably take like, hey man, some kind of what do you call that? Some kind of like blame for it, for your good doing now, and that'll make them feel good, it'd probably make their day,
Yeah, most definitely. And it's not a rare thing. It's not an isolated thing, because the truth be told, that's just how we interact with each other in prison. You know what I'm saying? We always, that's just part of our culture behind the walls, to help bring each other up to par, to build each other up, to encourage one another to exercise, to present themselves respectably, to conduct themselves professionally, to educate themselves. You know what I'm saying? That's just part of our culture. That's just who we are. And for anyone that's been incarcerated, we can meet up out here, never talked before a day in our lives, and be on the same wavelength, eye to eye, with those same principles and ideals.
Right.
And then so that's how come, and so that's how come I always encourage our brothers out here to do more, because I know they're capable of more.
Yeah, a lot of people don't take those teachings and apply them, in the right direction. They use them for their own personal agenda and shit. Forever their shit going on, and I see that going on for the years since I was a kid. You know what I mean? And but you're actually using it and showing love to the community.
We all have choices. You know what I'm saying? We all have choices, and the last thing I'll ever do is try to blame someone else for my own choices,
Right.
for a decision I make, right?
Right.
And whichever direction that you go, right?
Right.
Whether you go in the direction of an illegal lifestyle or a legal lifestyle, ultimately the choice is ours at the end of the day, right? We have to hold ourselves accountable for our own decisions. right? And one thing that I can say is that when I was in prison, I was never forced or pressured to get deeper into the game. You know what I'm saying? That I was actually told by by fellas, by brothers, by solid individuals. You know what I mean? Just throughout the years, that that always work on bettering yourself, because because after you've done the work to better yourself, you can more competently do the work to better your people.
Right, right.
You know what
Makes
I'm saying?
sense. Yeah, but I feel like as far as the discipline, and all that, like you took advantage of that, you know, the strict discipline, the working out, the staying up, just staying on your toes type stuff, and you applied that to the right direction. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
And it shows. You look sharp, man.
Thank you.
And you speak sharp. Works out. But continuing, where else you going with this? Is there anything else you're working on?
Yeah, right now, what I actually just started this project is that I'm working on creating a personal development space with a virtual platform, and in this community we meet weekly, right? And right now we're still in the introductory phase where we're getting to know each other, we're getting comfortable and familiar with each other, and where eventually it's gonna lead is that we're gonna that we're gonna be hosting and organizing seminars and workshops on finances, entrepreneurship, fitness, all things positive, right? All things relevant to achieving positive personal goals, right? And and so that's ultimately what I'm doing right now is I'm creating a space where I'm bringing a community together. We're getting to know each other, and we're talking positivity, and we're promoting positivity. And the next step is to make it real, right? And a saying of mine that I always like to throw out there is inspire, empower, advance. And what I mean by that is that inspire, empower, advance is that we inspire others that are watching us through our example, through our actions, through our strong positive mindsets and attitudes, right?
Right.
And then we empower them with the knowledge, the education, the tools, the laws to build themselves up and to take advantage of opportunities.
Right.
And the advancement comes when you act on that,
Right.
right? And so when you take that inspiration, right? When you take that inspiration to strive for more, and you're empowered with the tools to do so, and then you actually make the actions to do it, that's where advancement comes into play.
That's right. That's right. So, as far as when you went to that, what was that City Hall out there? When you went, where that last place you invited me to, Ocean?
Oh, that was the state capitol.
It's the state capitol.
So,
Are you going to be going over there anytime soon again? Is there anything else you're going to go?
yeah, yes. How that works is that I'm with I'm with Time Done under Californians for Safety and Justice, and we have a professional lobbyist teams that works in the state capitol and interacts with the legislators, and I'm part of the organizing body. So me myself, I'm the Northern California organizer for Time Done, which is a advocacy movement for people with old conviction records, right? So ultimately, what I do is that, okay, for reference, there's 40 million people in California. 8 million people out of that 40 million. 8 million people have a conviction record. And when you have a felony conviction record, there's over 48,000 state and federal regulatory restrictions against you, saying what you can no longer do. Right?
Okay.
From taking away your Second Amendment rights, saying you can't work in this industry, you can't work in that industry, you can't take your kids to some odd school function, you can't do this, you can't do that. There's 48,000 of those, right? And then so what we're saying is that when we serve our time should be done.
Right.
We shouldn't have a lifetime restrictions of these tens of thousands of laws and limitations that essentially relegate us to second-class citizenship because of a mistake that we made 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years ago.
And again, that's what I was saying. That's this cycle that's been going on for years, since the 60s and stuff like that. That's the problem, because they make it hard over and over again. And all these new laws, like, how are they helping us?
Well, because they make it hard because it's easy. And what I mean by that is, until recently, if you had a felony record, you weren't allowed to vote. You couldn't vote until recently, right? And so what that means is that the safest bet for politicians for the longest was tough on crime, tough on crime, tough on crime.
Yeah.
Throw the boogeyman under the rug. Throw the boogeyman under the bus, right? And so year after year, election after election, these tough on crime laws were stacked in our communities. But now we have the ability to vote.
Yeah.
Which means we now have an effective political voice, right? Because when we were up at the state capitol and I was speaking with a staffer of a senator one time, he had told us in good faith, because he's an ally of ours, he's a friend of ours. He had said, as a point of advice, if your people don't vote, we really don't care what they have to say, because my job at the end of the day is to get my boss, the senator, reelected. So if your people don't vote, don't expect a political voice.
Right.
And then so that's why it's so important for us to educate our people on the power that they carry with their vote, because
you got a weapon, you're not using it in this war.
Voice. Exactly.
Pick up your gun and use it.
Exactly. So if we don't step up and speak out with our political voice through a vote and let them know that we know that we have a vote and that vote counts and that vote can throw you out of office if you don't stand for our communities properly.
Right. Man, I like that, man. But we got to close up real quick. But I want to say one thing. I want to ask you one more question is, how'd you get into the juvenile hall? Do they let you go and like interview the kids too?
I haven't entered into the juvenile hall yet, but that's something that I'm definitely working on.
Oh, okay. So so who are you speaking? Like how they let you go and defend the kids?
Right now, I'm working with the Amelia and Adams Whole Life Center.
Oh, okay, it's another nonprofit, right?
Yes, sir. It's a community organization. I just volunteer with them.
That's good though, man.
Yes,
see, like you're reaching out, like that'll make me feel good because I remember being in this juvenile sitting down. I wish I could have had somebody everybody that talked to us. It's like it's cool if you have some kind of empathy and some compassion, whatever. But to have somebody come to that actually been in our shoes before makes you feel more comfortable to talk to these people.
And we're not just there to talk. We're there to make it real for them and in their lives by offering them actual services. Yeah.
Well, man, shit, that sounds good, man. I wish there were more people like you would come out and, like I said, keep the invites coming. I'll make it out there, and support you.
Most definitely. Thank you, brother.
Some of those things. That. All right, man. All right, Johnny. Hey, don't forget to like and subscribe.